All right, recording. This is a little bit different. So this is actually a post commentary over my Dominion League Season 71 match against Caetra. Playing the video a bit faster just because it's a post commentary. Basically, what happened though was that my mic got doubly recorded for my headset, so unfortunately, the audio of the original video is basically unrecoverable. So we're gonna do a post commentary. This is the first game. Kitsune is definitely one of the strongest cards here. I mean, it's a strong cursor. It does lots of things. So, Fairy Kitsune seems like the pretty obvious opening here. You've got some trashing of Church. You've got draw with Swashbuckler and Figurine. Some of Cursed Village, but I don't think Cursed Village is that strong here. So, I'm debating getting Scouting Party here. Yeah, so I want to trigger the shuffle as soon as possible and get Kitsune. Yeah, especially and I was noting there in the video that Progress is a thing, and Progress plus Kitsune top decks your curses, so it's a very nasty attack. But the thing I'm going to consider this game is how do I block those attacks with Lighthouse and Moat. So once Progress triggers, you can top deck Moats, or you could figure out how to play Lighthouses. But top decking Moats, puts a Moat into your next hand, and then from there, that blocks enemy attacks. I don't remember what I buy on turn 4. Oh yeah, I think I'm going to buy Scouting Party Lighthouse here. Yeah, I'm debating between Moat versus Lighthouse. I think I choose Lighthouse here. Yeah, I choose Lighthouse here. Though Moat would have been better in this case. I think I don't block an attack because of it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be first to the punch on Progress cursing. See, that was a pretty good Scouting Party. Yeah, I take a Church now just because I'm going to need some trashing. So yeah, there's the top decking of curses. Hopefully I don't get 2 curses in this game. I don't remember. I think I win the curse split this game, but we'll find out together. This is where I'm trying to figure out how they bought a gold, but we have Skulk in the Kingdom, which lets you it gains a gold when you buy Skulk. So yeah, I want to gain the Skulk here. Yeah, apologies if the video seems very quick. It's just because I'm playing this at 1.5 speed, just because it is at 1 time speed. It's like a 2-hour recording, so it's kind of annoying to have to re-record over it. So here I'm going to top deck a Moat, I think, and a Kitsune to block the attacks. I'm pretty sure you messing around with the Moats and the Lighthouses is how I think I take the curse split 3 to 7, so I only took 3 and they took 7, which is pretty strong. Yeah, just doing some stuff here. So yeah, you can also top deck silvers, which is pretty cool. Gonna set aside some junk cards here so I can trash them. Oh yeah, I'm contemplating Gondola there just to, it's another village effect. Just gonna be trashing some cards here, Trying to remember what diluted does. That's a pretty bad, actually. Not happy to see all the good cards, because Scouting Party forces you to discard 3, but that's okay. Just contemplating Gondola still, waiting for my opponent to decide what to do. And there, Locust was actually kind of helpful because normally I would gain a curse off that copper trash, but the curses are all gone, so nothing you can do about that. Yeah, so I'm at the point where, I don't need really block against curses, but I do need payload. So, yeah, buy a Swashbuckler here, I think. That's what I do here, because I need draw. Unfortunately, seeing the Swashbuckler on top here, not great, just because I was hoping to have something, hoping to find a village with it, find a Kitsune. But I could buy Gonzola here. I don't think I do this game, but I think I just buy Province here. Or maybe not. No, okay. Admittedly, that's a pretty good Scouting Party, actually. I think I'll buy another Swashbuckler here, because I have a Kitsune on top, so it makes sense to just top deck a Swashbuckler for draw. And then I'll also get the coffer off of Swashbuckler now. So yeah, we're just drawing on. Drawing with the cards. Here we'll set aside some cards of Church. I think I set aside like Moat and Copper and Church. Oh yeah, I'm trying to calculate here if I have 8, because what I would like to do is top deck Kitsune Swashbuckler. So that would be the ideal play right now, but I don't have 8. I only have 7 in hand if you include the coffer, so. Yeah, Misery is pretty strong here. It's minus 2 points, which can be very devastating. Yeah, here is, I was taking the chance of trying to see the Kitsune, the top deck of Swashbuckler, but didn't have enough money since I set aside that 1 copper. So at this point, thinking about a 3 pile, I see that Kitsune and Kitsune and Curses are out. So, looking at the Church pile. In a kingdom, though there's not many Bison's Kingdom, so But at this point, I'm just going to start clicking province. Annoyingly, I see the province immediately. But that's how the game goes sometimes. Not sure why my opponent decided to lower churches here. Maybe they just need the trashing, but just setting aside cards to hit exactly 8, so I can set aside some payload for next turn. Just really trying to, use the tempo I have to just buy provinces. So I want to give the curse. Envy seems pretty good here. Considering buying 2 churches, lower the pile, but that risks. Actually, I'm realizing, I said I top decked I found the province early. That's because of progress. Progress makes buying victory cards very annoying here. And it makes the treasure chest quite good here. Well, could be good here. Because the gold goes on top of your deck. So here I'm just going to buy church, I think. Oh, never mind, I buy skulk. Oh, just to top deck the gold, basically. But yeah, I'm just going to click provinces a bunch. And then at this point, I'm just going to start lowering the church pile. My deck is kind of running out of steam because of the top decking effect of progress, but we have those 2 coffers we can burn in order to buy the last 2 churches. So they're not able to take a points lead here. I mean, they're able to buy a province, I think, but they don't have plus buy, and there's only one thing left in the pile. So actually, I'm just able to buy the last province here. Alright. That was game 1. Now moving on to game 2. Alright, game 2. So, approaching army is like fine, I see governor here, see poet. There's lots of things going on here. I mentioned this in the original audio recording, but governor is a card I feel like I'm not very strong with, and it's a little intimidating. But we'll see how much use of governor I do or don't make here. Forager. There's lots of trashing. There's lots of things to do here. There's a jeweled egg, get loots, that kind of thing. So my opponent has the 5-2, which is, I don't know if it's stronger than the 4-3. I mean, poet is a pretty good card. It's kind of like a $4 lab if your deck is very cheap. What I'm commenting on there is, I don't actually know haven't actually seen enhance. before, really. I don't know why. It's just an event that has never shown up in any of my games, really. But, enhance on the hovel to get a forager. Yeah, enhance on jeweled egg is quite strong in the opening. Hammer looks pretty good too. So here I'm going to take a souk, though. I want some plus Y. So forager here is going to make me $2 because in the trash there are both a jeweled egg and a copper. So, well, we're hitting pretty big numbers and with lots of buys pretty quick. But I'm gonna take a few jeweled eggs here, I'm pretty sure, just because I want to get on those loots. Taking 2 jeweled eggs here. Poet can. So I'm rigging my deck a little bit so I can basically draw most of my deck with poets. So yeah, here I'm gonna do the enhance thing. Commentating on here how poets are strong draw in this deck in particular, because I don't really want the 5-cost cards. A lot of there's loots, unfortunately, but I tried the jeweled egg. Yeah, so I managed to get 2 insignias, which is kind of not what I wanted here, but yeah, I was kind of surprised I got. But yeah, the actual effective poaching army that gives attacks +1 coin is not very strong here. You can't really spam any of these attacks terribly well. Yeah, I'm not sure why they bought a giant. So now I've got the insignia in play though, so I can top deck some cards here. This really is kind of just the game where I just click poet a bunch, I think. Also, Bandit Camp and Poet synergize pretty well because Bandit can do spoils, and spoils cost 0, which means the Poet can draw the spoils. Yeah, prize goat's pretty good. I think their governor has been helping me almost more than has been helping them, actually. Just because I didn't actually have to put it in the deck, which means I don't have to actually draw it. Also, Orb looks pretty good here. The notable synergy I mentioning in the video right now is Orb plus Souk. So if you play during your buy phase, you play all your treasures from your hand, then you play Orb last, and then play the Orb, play the Souk from your discard pile. You have no cards in hand, and so then you get 7 coins and +1 buy with no downside. Trying to just math if Trash and Necropolis over Jeweled Egg is better here. gotta calculate, of course. Forger's making 2 here still, I'm pretty sure. But I think I end up deciding I want to trash the jewel egg for the loot. Yeah, shield's pretty good here. Contemplating top decking the Sook, but looks like I decided to. Hoping I'd find a forager, because that reduces my hand size by 2. Alright, playing, so hitting big numbers here. So at this point, I'm going to start debating whether I want to buy a province. I'm hitting big numbers, but also plenty of buys. I'm just seeing the low piles of Poet, Jewel Deck, and Forager, and that's what is influencing that province buy. Taking jeweled eggs, I want those loots. So yeah, they're lowering the poet pile as well. So I think I'm just buying a province here. Trying to get ahead in points. I'm noting here I have shield, so I managed to pull the shield off the loot pile, and if they play their giant here, then yeah, like that, they get the big effect that turns it face up, but they don't get the trashing effect against me. Looks like I'm just going to play province plus something here. Maybe I'm debating duchy over something, some other action cards. It could make sense to also put training on poet, because I do have a lot of them, but looks like I end up going with the duchy. And I know one thing I do this game, right here, I buy a beggar. And then I'm going to use the rarely used discard effect of beggar here, I think. So yeah, I've got bad omens here, which top deck's up to 2 coppers, but I only have 1 copper in the deck. So, tells me I've done pretty good in trashing. So here I'm debating about whether I want... Basically, I'm debating if I can take the last province, or take the penultimate province or not. Because if I take it now, I'll take province duchy. And if I take it later, I'll take 2 duchies. So, but I'm also... So if I buy province duchy here, it puts me ahead by... What is that, 12 points? So, but just debating whether taking the last province makes sense, and I decided it does, as long as I take province duchy. And then I have this really nasty dud. of getting just a shield, but, taking a state, try to keep it. Here, I decide not to use the beggar effect, because I want the copper, I want the money. It's plus 3 coins for 1 turn, basically. Here, I'm just gonna trash the silver, but then get the copper stay, and yeah, that's a win. So winning game 2. All right, game 3. Yeah, this kingdom. This is kind of a, there's not a lot going on here, but you've got, technically you have everything you need. Though, notably the only village here is going to be Shantytown. I think Captain also kind of works as a village, but it's very expensive. You're debating about taking the one Shantytown. Because I have just treasures and victory cards, Shantytown is like a laboratory here. But I opt for the gear instead. Setting aside these 2 estates doesn't actually matter because I'm not tricking a shuffle. I don't know why I'm debating. I don't remember why I debated this, but I guess I'm trying to debate whether I want a captain or not. And I decide the thing to do is just get a bunch of ropes. Oh, right there I was trying to see what delay does, because I was confusing it with, I believe the event is save, which could make a state miss the shuffle. Yeah, I'm also talking about the timing of Faithful Hound and Grotto. That's the only thing that actually lets you discard Faithful Hound. Talking about nomads here. Pretty sure I buy nomad Shantytown here. So I've got 2 ropes coming in. So I'm going to draw and trash these 2 estates. And at this point I have 3 ropes and Caetra has 2. Of course, that obnoxious gold buy. Don't remember what I take here. Another gear. Yeah, buying that just because I have a Shantytown coming into play. Talking about setting these cards aside. Talking about possibly buying gold here. Yeah, I'm talking about buying gold here. Pretty sure I actually do buy gold here. Could have been argued that you should buy captain there, though. There's other ways to. I'm buying gold because I need payload, but captain could give you payload if you play it as either nomads or salvager, even. I'm just gonna click province here. Oops. Hopefully Discord is popping off a little bit. Hopefully that's not showing up in the video. So yeah, just trying to figure out how to hit province here. This game kind of turns into a race for provinces, but we'll see how that plays out. I think I've talked about this in the video or the original video, but I'm going to say it here. What I'm trying to figure out is how to hit 10 in 2 buys, because what I want to do is buy province and then buy grotto, and so then I can use grotto to set aside my victory cards and then have a bigger starting hand. I think this turn I hit what I want, so I get province and a grotto. So here's a pretty nasty dud. No, it's not that bad. Something I definitely, as a post-commentary perspective should have done is use delay on these Faithful Hounds with an excess of plus buys. I do this later in the game, but it's something I think I could have been doing sooner. And I don't think either of us did that this game. Just debating the order here. I don't think the order of rope versus grotto actually matters here, though. So yeah, like right here. So yeah, I think trashing this Faithful Hound might be a mistake. I don't, you only have because I have exactly so yeah, here I'm gonna do buy a duchy, but then delay 2 draw cards. So now, yeah, now we're duchy dancing a bit here, just figuring out what do I do with the so yeah, gonna set aside this grotto because I want to be sure I can get a grotto for my next hand. Considering buying coppers here, because I'm kind of low on payload, with only the 1 gold and the nomads being anything that's worth more than 1 coin, but yeah, so very close to hitting 16 for my opponent, which would have just ended the game, but I mean, yeah. I think they take province, the last province here. Duchy. So here I need to hit 13 in order to win. So yeah, trying to figure out, here I probably think what I do here, well, we'll see. Thinking about trashing the nomads for the +2 coins because I don't have that actions. So yeah, this is where I'm like, I have no payload in the deck. But I'm going to take 2 duchies. And just hoping my opponent does not have 8. So you're going to be able to set aside a bunch of cards. So yeah, here I'm 1 short of province. Thinking about buying a duchy, but realizing it actually doesn't matter because even if I buy a duchy, they're gonna hit the hit province. They're just gonna win. So I'm gonna actually take a captain here, just because it can do a variety of things for me. You know, really, the only thing I care about is salvager, but so seeing if my opponent can hit 8 again. You know, in theory, it's not that hard because they have 2 golds in the deck, but they didn't. So if I can hit 8 here, which I do, yeah, I can buy that last province for the win, barely. Very close game. Game 4. So we got Shepherd going on here, especially with Museum. You know, makes pasture worth a lot of points. You know, I would probably open Jack of all trades, but you really want to keep your victory cards, especially with the pasture around. But, you know, if you look at the kingdom, really the only draw is Haunted Woods. Yeah, Haunted Woods is kind of, well, I guess Shepherd is also draw. I should not discount Shepherd. Shepherd is also draw if you discard 2 or more victory cards to it. Debating Squire over Shop here. Originally I considered Shepherd Shop as an opening, but I'm pretty sure I take the Squire here. We'll see if that's what I do. So yeah, take Squire here mainly because it's the only source of plus buy. I'm just talking about triggering shuffles here. So yeah, here I actually gain a silver just because, you know, payload. You know, I see King's Court. You know, typically in a kingdom, you see King's Court and you're like, I want King's Court. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about here. Very confusing that they buy. I mean, they buy 2 estates. So, but that's because they're worth 2 points here, and they synergize with Shepherd. So it's not the most outlandish thing in the world to buy 2 estates here, but a bit premature. Especially with Haunted Woods around if you have a nasty dud. Yeah, so I buy one because I don't want my opponent to get all the estates. They skip their turn there, mainly because they don't want to be Haunted Woods attacked, but they're gonna get Haunted Woods attacked repeatedly in this game. So it's a weird thing with the Haunted Woods attack. Really incentivizes you, if you're getting hit with it, to not have victory cards. Unfortunately, I failed to find the second Haunted Woods here. Yeah, so I'm thinking about buying Province here, just because you can kind of support it if you have Shepherds. Talking about possibly buying another Squire, just because otherwise I don't know if I'm going to have access to plus buy, but here I'm buying 2 Shepherds in an estate, so yeah, discarding for lots of things here. And then I'm buying one more Haunted Woods here, just because I put both of my Haunted Woods in play. I'm going to be sure I can play one this turn. And here we're just kind of off to the races of we're drawing lots of cards, drawing our whole deck. So this is where I realize I only have 1 Squire, and so I don't have access to plus buy if I want to. So either I have to forego playing Haunted Woods, or I only have 1 buy to work with. But at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply just start buying provinces one by one. The thought process is if I just get all the provinces before their deck is online, it'll be, this will be a good time. And, with a deck of lots of victory cards, with a large starting hand size especially, that was very close to being a dud there because I top decked a bunch of victory cards, but luckily I found a Shepherd on top. And so now I'm under the Haunted Woods attack. Yeah, but we're drawing the whole deck here. So yeah, now I'm going to play around Haunted Woods here, because I can top deck a Shepherd. Yeah, so I can and this is where I should have not. That third Shepherd I played, or the last one I played that turn was, yeah, unnecessary. So, but here I'm gonna play Shepherd and discard 7 victory cards. But this is where they might be catching up a little bit because they have 2 Squires, so they have access to plus buy. So then I can play my shop on my 1 Squire for 2 actions. And I'm under the Haunted Woods attack, so I'm just going to leave those 2 shepherds in my hand. So the order doesn't really matter here, just because I'm going to draw 6 cards at the beginning of my next turn, but yeah, I am, despite only buying 1 province a turn, you know, I'm able to buy 1 province every turn. So here, notably, I'm actually not under the Haunted Woods attack, so here I just pass, because I don't want to top deck those victory cards and fail to find a shepherd. But I am way too far ahead in points for this to really matter at this point, so I mean, right here, yeah. Here I just stop because I'm under Haunted Woods attack, so then I can top deck these cards. Yeah, and then they resign here. I mean, yeah, I was too far ahead. Alright, on to game 5. So we got the shelters and we got in the Haunted Mirror. This is gonna be, you know, minor spoiler warning. We're gonna see some rats in action this game, which is very exciting for the rat enthusiasts out there. Yeah, so you want to hit 5 here. So you just open. I'm just opening double silver. Yeah, there's Sea Witch, so you want to give out all the curses as quickly as possible. And trashing is... There's a lot of trashing here, but it's somewhat limited. You can Hideout and Bishop, only trash 1 card at a time. Rats adds another... Basically, Rats just replaces your card with Rats. So here, so debating basically clicking mission in order to play the Sea Witch versus buying something. But I think I just click Hideout here. The thing I have my eye on from a very early point in this game is Bishop. Basically just rats plus all the trash for benefit here. Right, so usually you don't want to click rats unless there's some sort of trash for benefit. I'm surprised it took silver there. I guess I want to be hitting 5 sooner rather than later. Pretty sure I take a Souk here. Or no, definitely not taking a Souk here. I want another Sea Witch. Yeah, and just taking a Hideout here for more trashing. Luckily I have the Necropolis in my starting hand, though. Doesn't matter. I really want the rats Until I buy the rats, I'm very much like, I want the rats. It's kind of a problem in this game. I'm very tempted by rats. Oh, yeah, I wanted to find counterfeit here because plus buy. So instead, I'm going to take a souk and trash these 2 coppers. So at this point, I have the opportunity to get the ghost here. Which I think in general is pretty good. I think in general ghost is pretty good, but there are cases, and there are like if you add a rat to your deck, this like if for example, and then you double play it, it's that you're trashing 2 cards and getting 2 rats, which you might not want. There's me being tempted by rats again and again. Yeah. So bishop trashing rats is, it is something. So I'm considering treasure trove plus rats here. See the frantic mouse movement over rats. Rats. Yep, and there's the first rats of the game. Gotta love the rats. Buy another treasure trove here. And I set aside the Sea Witch, which is actually pretty good. So I've got the rats now. Yeah, like I decided to discard 2 silvers just because I want to trash things. But yeah, treasure trove plus trashers is very nice, like plus hideout plus rats, because treasure trove gives you coppers that you don't really want, and it basically gives you some money to feed into those rats. Debating taking a bishop here. I guess another bishop rather. Unfortunately, when Ghost plays a duration card, it sets it out of play for many turns, for 2 turns. Because you play it at the end of one of your turns, or it's actually 3 turns. Because you play it at the end of your turn, it sets aside a card, you play that card, and then it has to be set aside again. Or it stays in play because of the duration effect. Debating trashing rats here, but decide not to. Just because I can play hideout and then draw rats. Well, first I have to discard the Sea Witch. So I'm going to trash rats to draw a card. And then I'm going to trash rats to draw another card. Yeah, the souk goes away here. But, souk wasn't doing that much for me. It was making like 2 coins because I was drawing a bunch of treasures. an unfortunate terminal collision here. But luckily, or yeah, it wasn't a terminal collision in fact, because I had the hideout set aside. Just calculating how much money I have. So yeah, I'm gonna play bishop on bishop actually. Just because I want to keep those golds. So yeah, 14 and 2 buys is nice here because you can do province plus crop rotation as I just did. You know, as you start buying victory cards, makes a lot of sense to buy crop rotation. Yeah, very full trash this game. They're getting their ghost, but I'm definitely very much ahead. I tempted them into getting rats as well because they saw how well it was working for me, but I think here the treasure trove dies. Just because I can hit province here, and you know, I'm very far ahead. I've got so many golds in my deck thanks to treasure trove. You know, that's just a win in hand right there. Yeah. So there you go. That was game 5. Rats will probably be the thumbnail if it isn't already. Alright. Oh yes, this game. Featuring Annex, which I say this in the video. I don't really understand Annex. I mean, I can understand what the effect does, but it seems very useless. Yeah, Sailor plus Samurai is a nice little synergy if you can hit 6 and play a Sailor. Just because, yeah, usually the big downside of Samurai is you buy it, it doesn't do anything. You have to go find it. It's very slow. Here, I remembering that I misread Sailor. So yeah, for War Chest, I'm naming War Chest just because there's no plus buy in the kingdom, and you know, most of the cards you want to gain, like you wouldn't like, even if it was just like, oh, I gained a cabin boy, I wouldn't mind gaining cabin boys. But if you can gain more War Chests, I definitely would. Yeah, I really don't know why they bought a leprechaun this game. Like, they get 1 wish from it, I'm pretty sure, this entire game. Like, you really want a leprechaun if you're going to get the wishes. So yeah, here this forge is actually super useless. Unfortunately. You know, I wanted to see it with my 2 estates and then trash both estates into a useful card, but so yeah, not going very well. This is good. I mean, mainly because the forge is down there with the estates. Yeah. I'm also naming war chest just because I'm not sure what card to otherwise name. I'll take a first mate here. So unfortunately my forge has bottom decked. Yeah, so it's definitely a slower game than the previous ones. Trying to figure out what the heck to name with war chest. So they bought a samurai, but weren't able to do the cute trick with it. Yeah, don't understand Leprechaun. This is a nice turn. Get to trash some coppers and some estates to gain a useful card. The discard attack kind of hurts, but not that much. Yeah, that's very much the theme. I click war chest and they play war chest. I name war chest. It'll be a pretty good turn just because I've got first mate and I can play 2 sailors and then I'll draw up to 6. Yep, just name a war chest again. This discard attack is actually pretty helpful. I'm going to discard this sailor just because I actually want to trash this copper still. Now here I'm finally hitting thinking about trying to play the forge with the forge useful. I think that's what I do here. I use it to basically trash a copper. And getting their first mate just to have enough draw. I get to play the samurai immediately. So finally got to do the cute little trick with sailor and samurai. So I get to trash a bunch here, and then sailor, draw the whole deck. Trying to see if I can use forge to gain a samurai, but basically gonna get rid of that final copper. And then I'm checking how many sailors I've played. I've played 2 of them, so I can play through this, play 1 more. Yeah, really not understanding why they bought Leprechaun this game, but though in theory with samurai and duration cards you could make it so Leprechaun is easy to hit. You know, but with 5 cards in play, it makes it pretty hard to play Leprechaun and have a turn. But yeah, at this point, I start naming Duchy. Confused about why my opponent bought Annex. Don't really know, to be honest. Debate trashing the Forge here, but just because the Forge isn't super doing anything useful, but I decided to keep it. Yeah, I keep it mainly because if I use War Chest and I gain like 2 secret passages, I could just or actually I'm debating turning the silver into a Leprechaun. Yeah, I'm debating whether I could actually gain a Leprechaun somehow or like make Leprechaun useful, but yeah, at this point I'm just going to click Secret Passage and Province. The other thing this deck can do with the Forge is I can turn the War Chest and the silver into a province, which is something I'd note later in the original recording, but I'll note it here. Secret Passage actually pretty useful here, because I can top deck the first mate. As long as I find a sailor with it. Yeah, I realize it here, but I want to leave it for now just because I want to repeatedly gain cards. Yeah, just gotta repeatedly name Duchy with War Chest. They're actually ahead on points here, actually. If we each province per turn. But, it's kind of dependent on whether they can consistently gain provinces. Here I'm forgetting that first mate draws up to 6 after I play both of these cards. Here I do Forge into province. Oh yeah, I actually do have the win in hand here because I've got all the cards in play that gives me 8 money, and then I can just Forge province into province. They did manage to get a wish finally. So there you go. That's my very rare 6-0 versus Caetra.